Life is a balance between what we can control and what we cannot. I am learning to live in between effort and surrender. Danielle Orner. Hi guys, welcome back to the Interlinked Podcast. I am your host, Ray, and today's episode is all about balance. From work-life balance to balance in relationships, to balance with working out, to balance with dieting or hustling versus slowing down. All the things in our lives require balance. And I feel like we're constantly all in a state of trying to figure out what that looks like for each of us. So on that note, I wanted to start with a little life update because I have just been really stressed and overwhelmed, and I wanted to do this episode for you guys, but also to show you that I don't have it all together, and I know that based on what I post and how I am and the way that I present myself, especially online, I can definitely look like I have it all together, but I'm here to tell you that I do not. I'm very infamous for biting off more than I can chew, and I think I do that just because I genuinely am just a lifelong learner. I'm constantly wanting to try new things, and I want new experiences. And all of that is fine, but it can also cause issues when there's so many things building up and there's really not enough time in the day or in the week to check off all these things. And for me, having 75 hard and trying to be more creative and do social media and this podcast and chasing my dreams and mapping out my future and, let me get ClassPass so that I can balance the gym, but then now I feel guilty for not using my credits on there. Like, there's so many aspects where I'm just like, oh my God, my plate is full. And I chose what was on my plate, but it's also just too much. It's too much. And you have to take a step back and realize when you are in a state where you've put all of these things on your plate and it's not working out for you. Does that mean you have to take them all away? No. It means you need to reevaluate what is working, what's stressing me the hell out, and what can I do to change that? Because if you don't check in and you just keep pushing forward, you're going to be so miserable. And the peace inside of yourself isn't there. So how can you bring peace to your environment? How can you bring peace to others? That's kind of just what I have to remind myself, that I matter first and my inner self comes out naturally in any environment that I'm in. So with me trying to do all of these things and then also having a full-time job and making time after work to go to the gym and go for my walks and get in a gallon of water a day and read and meditate and, do social media. And then I'm also thinking about podcast ideas 24/7 and trying to listen to other podcasts and get other ideas. It's like, holy shit, I'm burnt to a crisp. And on top of that, there's just been also some personal things in my life that have really impacted me, and I've dealt with a lot of loss this year, and it's been hard to navigate with a positive attitude and allowing myself to actually check in and feel my feelings, but also knowing that I can't stay in that mindset of, sadness or hopelessness because I can't move forward. And there has to be that balance. So it just really got me thinking, like, I need to talk about this to show you guys that I'm struggling, but also to check in with myself. And a lot of times I use this podcast as a bit of a therapy for me, because through talking to you guys and motivating you or sharing a story, it allows me to also feel it too. I listen back to it sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I'm either still struggling with that thing I mentioned, or it's cool to see that I broke free from it. So with this topic of balance, I wanted to bring up that it's not just me, it's not just you. This is literally our culture, hustle culture, okay? Just the nature of America is very individualistic, whereas other cultures and societies operate more from a communal aspect, and everything is kind of through the lens of community. I remember in college, I took a class, it was called Asian Communication, and we learned all about Asian cultures. And it was so interesting for me to see that the way that our culture operates is very climb the ladder, it's me versus me, it's all about the individual. Whereas in other places, it's more about the community. It's about the kin. It's about respecting everyone's time and working through things together and more slowness. We're expected, on the other hand, to eat, sleep, breathe, blank. Insert whatever that item is. Eat, sleep, breathe, gym. Eat, sleep, breathe, grind. Eat, sleep, breathe, basketball. Eat, sleep, breathe, work. Whatever it may be, that's kind of our culture. This repetitive cycle of us just doing the same things every single day and not taking time to really reflect on how we feel, because all we do is repeat. And through this framework, we're kind of just putting all of our focus on one thing, whether that's the gym or basketball or work. We're simply focusing on that one thing, and everything else is just going to the wayside. And I want to encourage you to think more about balance and understand that balance doesn't mean one thing is getting all of your attention. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean either that everything is getting equal attention. So we obviously all have various things on our plates, or various tasks that we want to complete, or various priorities that we have. And it's up to you to determine what your priorities are and how much time you need for each one. Regardless of who you are or how old you are, we all have basic baskets in life that we try to fill, and we try to make time for them. Like, you have to work, of course, you have to make money, you have to live. So your financials, your career, that's a basket. You have your health, which, depending on how much you care about it, you're either trying to make this a priority, or at the very least, it should be a priority. So whether you go to the gym or you just think about going to the gym, that should be something that you care about. We obviously have love in some way. So this could be self-love, or this could be love for your family, showing up for them, or this could be a relationship that you're in. And then we have the basket of socializing. So whether you choose to do that just on weekends or you're trying to find time for it during the week, this is constantly something that's coming up. So whether you're deciding to make the effort in texting people or other people are texting you, that's definitely something that is popping up time and time again. Like, you think your schedule's free, and then boom, somebody asks you to do something on Saturday. Boom, somebody asks you to go get coffee. Boom, somebody says, oh, I'm going to this class. Do you want to come with me? And having to navigate, like, what do I actually have time for? If I go hang out with all these people, did I make time for the other baskets? Did I make time for my career? Did I make time for love? Did I make time for movement? And if I go hang out with all these people, am I going to be giving up the diet I just set out to do? That's why it can be so hard to balance all of these baskets, because when you do one thing, sometimes the other things suffer. Like going out, being social, that can cause the health and the movement piece to suffer. Or doing the whole love thing and being in a relationship can cause the socializing to suffer with other people outside of your person, because if you're already hanging out with your boyfriend all the time, you're less inclined to want to then hang out with your friends and make the effort to have plans outside of that, because now you're feeling like your alone time is suffering, which is another cup or another basket that you want to put energy into to feel balance. So again, I think it's really key for you to write down what your baskets are, be specific, and how much attention each piece needs. Devise a plan. How are we going to attack this? What on a weekly basis am I doing to make sure that I hit all of these things and I can feel content in multiple ways? Not just, oh, I'm happy with how my body is looking right now, but I'm not getting any sleep. I haven't hung out with anyone. My diet sucks. I feel overwhelmed. I'm doing terrible at work, but at least my body's looking good. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't lose yourself in the pursuit of just one thing. And on the flip side of that, don't bite off more than you can chew. You can't be good at everything immediately. And you can try a million things, but you don't have to try a million things in 1 week. Like, I am so guilty of this because I just literally want to learn and do everything. And I teeter on the concept of slowness and, oh, we have so much time to do these things and learn new skills. But then I'm also in this mindset of like, I could die tomorrow and I don't want to have all this wasted potential. So I have to do everything right now. And that's not fair either. So, you can want to learn guitar and draw more and learn a new language and learn how to crochet and learn how to code and do calisthenics and have these gym goals. I can want all of that. I can. But I'm not going to be able to do it in 1 week. I can't just say, oh, I'll do Duolingo on Tuesdays and I'll crochet on Wednesday and I'll practice guitar on Thursday. Like, you can set out to do that and be specific with your time and think that if you dedicate a certain day each week to something, that means you'll do it. But take it from me, it's not very practical because you're really not allowing any time for you to just be. And that stillness and that feeling that you have the opportunity to do whatever you want on a given day needs to be available. And if every single day is booked up, like Thursday I have to practice guitar, so can't do this, it's like you're limiting yourself. And rather than doing guitar every Thursday, maybe you just set aside one day every 2 weeks, or you do it when your body wants to do it. Like, you don't want these things that are typically viewed as leisure or hobbies to become something that is like on your checklist. Like, if I have practice guitar on my checklist, but I'm starting to actually dread the concept of practicing the guitar, now it's not feeling like a hobby. Now it's feeling like a chore. And you have to listen to how you feel when you do have some task that you're interested maybe in learning or putting on your plate, but do you actually have time for it? Which leads me to, what is the consequence of not having balance? You probably know this already, but burnout is a huge one. Like, you have 50 things you're trying to do, and even just the concept of setting goals can be very taxing on you. Like, if you say, oh, it's a new month and I want to walk 10,000 steps a day and drink a gallon of water each day and set aside time to draw, like, all of those things are great and it's great to have goals. But if you have too many goals that you don't achieve, that leads to burnout, and it also leads to you feeling dissatisfied because you didn't check everything off. Whereas if you had only maybe 4 or 5 things on your list of goals and you hit all 4 or 5 of them, now you feel really motivated because it's like, wow, the only thing on my list really was 1 health thing, one career thing, one finance thing, and maybe one social thing. And if you do that, it's way healthier because you probably will hit those goals and then you can set more. But at least you didn't set 5 in each category and feel like, wow, I didn't get to do all of them. I'm a failure. So sometimes having less things on the list is actually better because it leaves room for you to overachieve, which overachieving feels a lot better than underachieving. Not having balance also looks like anxiety. You have anxiety about all the things on your to-do list. You have anxiety about all the things that you didn't do. You have anxiety about doing those things well or living up to the standard that you expect for yourself or that society expects for you. It can also lead to just overall lack of motivation because if you have 20 things on your plate, you might not even have the capacity to complete 2 of them because all you're focused on is the fact that you have 20 things on your plate. Whereas if you only had 3 or 4, now it's like, okay, I don't feel as overwhelmed and I feel motivated because I know that I can do those 3 things. Can I do 20? Probably not. I've also noticed it really correlates with mood swings, and I never considered myself having huge mood swings. I think when I was on birth control, I saw a lot of highs and lows there, but having too much on your plate can also cause mood swings because if you think about it, you have this satisfaction once you finish a task, right? Like, let's say you set out to go to the gym 4 days a week, okay? So those 4 days that you did go to the gym, you're like, oh my God, I did it. I'm her. Like, I'm eating down. And then think about the next week. You set out again to do 4 days a week and maybe you only do 2. And now the 2 days that you didn't go, you feel like shit. You feel really low because you're not achieving what you set out to do. And this can be especially heightened when you have 10 things on your to-do list, okay? And you didn't accomplish any of them. And you might have been super happy before you set these goals. Like, I know for me with 75 Hard, that in itself has like 5 things that I have to do every day. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's not enough. Like, I'm not doing enough. So let me sign up for ClassPass and start doing yoga on this day. And also I'm coaching flag football and doing that 4 days out of the week. And that's not enough though. Let me also be more creative and start drawing and set aside time for that. And then let me also try to get back into my faith and go to church on Sunday and then also be a part of a youth group on Monday. And then let me also make sure I'm doing something to serve in the community each week. Like, bro, what? I just feel like you have to recognize that you are going to feel so unsatisfied when you have way too many things going on. Whereas if I just had a couple things, it's like so easy to accomplish those and then you can add more shit to the list. Like, I am not going to lie to you guys. I have to add a few days to my 75 Hard because there's been days where like I literally cannot do it. I can't. And I just have to remember that it's something I set out for myself to do, but it's not the end of the world if I can't do it in one day because I'm just putting way too much on my plate. And is it worth going to bed at 3 a.m. just to make sure I got my walk in and just to make sure I read? Or should I prioritize my sleep so that I'm not suffering in all these other baskets of my life, like my job the next day, or running practice after school, or being able to have a good energy around other people and not feel very irritable? Like, when you get down on yourself because you didn't go to the gym yesterday or whatever it may be, you start to project that onto other people. Like, it's not their fault that you didn't follow your diet, but somehow being around other people and, if they complain about something or they just want to talk to you and you feel like you have such bad energy because you're so down on yourself for not doing something that you set out to do. And that's why I say, like, having too much on your plate can literally lead to mood swings. And I never really experienced that before until I started putting 1,000 things on my plate. And then I'm like, bro, I am in such bad spirits. Like, I need to fucking chill out because I'm making it everybody's problem and it's my problem. Like, I need to practice what I preach and slow down. So I posted this TikTok last month, like the start of February, and I wanted to read it because we are at the beginning of March, and I thought it tied in well with what I'm talking about today, so I'm going to read that to y'all. New months are often approached as a chance to hit the reset button. This month, I urge you to do so, but I also want you to focus more on valuing life in parallels. With new goals comes new challenges. With new light comes darkness. With new connections comes distance to old ones. With new desires comes dissatisfaction. With new hobbies comes burnout. With new opportunities comes doubt. With new lessons comes uncomfortable change. With new growth comes small circles. With new love comes sacrifice. With new discovery comes uncertainty. With new ideas comes difficult decisions. With new success comes failure. Appreciate the beauty in all of it. So just like I said, I sometimes listen back to these podcasts and kind of see where I'm at. I will also look back at my TikToks too because I make shit for you guys, but it's also because I'm struggling too. Like, the people that are motivating others need motivation themselves, okay? So when I post shit like that, it's also a message to me. So if you're struggling with any of the things that I mentioned, it might be valuable for you to write them down so that you can see, like, okay, these are the baskets I have. These are the things I want to do. These are the new things in my life. This is what has happened as a result of those new things. And how am I feeling overall? Like, are these new things bringing me peace? Are they bringing me growth? Because if they're not bringing me either of those things, it might be time to reevaluate. Is this new hobby adding to my life? Or do I have too many hobbies? Am I feeling burnt out? Are these new desires causing more dissatisfaction than satisfaction? Is this new relationship taking away all of the energy I would be giving to the baskets that are important to me? So I want to take a deeper dive of these different baskets and how you can kind of handle them in a way that is efficient for you and doesn't require you to sacrifice all of your time and all of your energy to just one thing. So I don't know how old all of my listeners are, but regardless of your age, we all have bills to pay, whether that's a car payment or rent or groceries or student loans, whatever it may be, we all have to work a job, okay? So work-life balance is probably the biggest basket that we all, regardless of our situation, have to navigate and figure out a way to make work. And what works for me is going to look different than what works for you. I don't know what your job is. If you work night shift, if you work 12-hour day, if you work an 8-hour day, if you're a bartender and you don't work 3 days out of the week, but you're up until 4 a.m., like, we all have different lifestyles. So balance is going to look very, very different for each of us. But I really just want to leave y'all with this. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to live a life. I'm going to say that again. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to live a life. So I know I can't just say work less, like you don't need to afford your rent. But what I can say is if you're working more than you need to just to have more money, that is where maybe you want to take a step back, because having balance and having peace of mind is so much more important than having all this money in the bank, because money comes back around, but time doesn't and experiences don't. So if you're avoiding these opportunities that maybe would bring you a lot of happiness and peace because you have to work or because you want to make more money, you're only going to be your age once. Like, you're going to look back when you're 80 and be like, damn, I wish I would have taken that opportunity to go to Puerto Rico with my friends when I was younger. But instead, I was more focused on getting more shifts in at the bar. Or if you're in a more corporate, traditional setting where you're working a 9 to 5 and then you find yourself still working after work, that's where it's like, am I actually getting compensated for the time and the energy I'm putting in? Or at the very least, am I even appreciated or valued for what I do? Because I'm putting my whole life into this job, ignoring my sleep, ignoring my passions, ignoring my health, not going to the gym, whatever it may be. And then it's like, for what? Am I actually being valued here? And if the answer is no, then just know I see you. I see you for what you're doing, and you're not always going to get recognition for the good things that you do. You're not always going to get that pat on the back or that promotion. But what I will say is you have to deal with the repercussions of you breaking your boundaries. So you have to go home and realize, wow, you didn't decide to meal prep because you were so busy on working on work outside of work. And now you're going to go home, maybe eat like shit because you have nothing in place. Or you didn't go to the gym because you were so busy putting all this energy into your work. And again, was that worth it? Is your job worth your health? So if you set aside time, like after work, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do that 3 days out of the week, you better hold yourself to that, because that's what work-life balance is. It's telling yourself work-life balance. I have work, space, then I have life. Okay? So work and life don't go together. You have your life and then you have your job. So you need to understand that you don't just have your work. You have to say, I have these things in my life that are a priority for me, and I'm going to stick to them, whatever it takes. Again, there is so much power in writing that shit down. If you're someone that has a more free-flowing schedule, like I know for me, when I was bartending, it can be a little bit hard to feel like you have motivation to do other things because working all night, waking up late, you kind of have too much freedom. So creating a schedule to where you can actually follow that and it doesn't take so much from your cup that it feels unsustainable, that's the key. Give the things in your life the same energy you would give them if they were your job. So, okay, you want to call your gym your boss? Sure, you best believe you better be showing up on time, 8 a.m., to that job to do your lift. And there's a balance, of course. Like I said, don't be so harsh on yourself if you can't make it or you want to change the time this day. You can have flexibility in time. I'm just using that as an example. But show up when you say you're going to show up. So if you're going to go 3 days out of the week, make that a basket. Don't have too many, but treat it like you would treat it a job. Show up. Okay, moving on. You need to have balance when it comes to food, okay? This is so key. Regardless of your relationship with food right now or what it was in the past, I think we can all agree that we have to eat to survive. So whether we're focusing on coming up with a diet or eating cleaner or tracking our macros or getting more protein in, we are all focused on food in some way. There's one thing in particular that I think is really important for balance, and it's simply getting out of the mindset that one meal or one sweet treat is going to ruin the entire rest of the day. Like, for instance, I'll go to work and I'll have my meal prep shit, I'll have my oats, I'll have whatever I prep for lunch, it's all packed away, okay? Then I'll go in the workroom and, oh, look, someone brought donuts, okay? Then I'm like, oh my God, I kind of want one. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really follow what I'm supposed to be eating today. But then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to eat one. So then I eat the donut and then I'll just feel like, oh, for the rest of the day, everything is just a wash because I just had a donut and now all my progress, like I might as well just not go to the gym. I might as well also eat like shit for lunch. And it's like this cascading downfall of negative eating habits or just the perception in my mind of how I'm going to go about the rest of the day simply because I had one thing that was out of the ordinary, that was not in the plans. So too much of anything is obviously not healthy, but in moderation, there is no issue with you having a donut or having a sweet treat. And that can look like a healthy sweet treat too. Like I make dates with peanut butter and chocolate, and to me is balance because I get to have something that, gives me that feeling like it's still chocolate, but I'm not eating a whole pint of ice cream or I'm not eating a box of cookies. Like instead, I'm having this healthy sweet treat so that I can still get that same feeling. I made a whole TikTok about this where your body naturally wants to return to homeostasis. So if you're on some crazy diet where you're restricting yourself to a point where your body is like, yo, this is not working, you're going to return back to your old ways, but even stronger because you're restricting so much. And then you're going to feel even more shitty because you ate salads, you ate everything that you were supposed to, and then you get home and you might just let it all go and just raid your cabinets because your body is not able to handle the diet that you're trying to follow. And that's okay. You are naturally going to retract back to your old ways, but you have to give yourself the grace to say, that's okay. I get it. I was being too harsh on you. Like, let's take it back a notch. Let's actually do this instead. Let's actually not do 1,500 calories. Maybe we need to do 1,700 calories if you're tracking, and give yourself that grace, because if you don't, you're going to be so unsatisfied. And it all just comes back to balance. You can work on your body and you can work on your diet and you can work on having these goals for yourself, but you need to have balance. And a lot of it is also not putting things in your vicinity that are going to make you struggle. Like when I lived at my dad's house, he had chips and Oreos and just a whole pantry of junk. And it was really hard for me to restrict myself and not indulge because it's all right in front of my face. But now living alone, I don't buy any of that. And I don't buy it for a reason. Like if I do somehow end up with like chocolate or treats, it's really hard for me to just not go ahead and eat all of it because of that mindset. Like I said, if I eat badly, I'd rather do it all in one day because that day is a wash. And I'd rather just not have the whole box of cookies. I'd just eat them in one day. That way, I'm not eating them any other day besides today. And today can just be my cheat day, my wash. Everything can be bad about today. And that's just such a bad mindset. So if you want more on food, just let me know. But listen to your body and allow yourself some grace. So when it comes to working out, there's so many more options than just going to the gym and lifting weights or doing cardio, okay? I am a firm believer that any movement is a benefit to you, and if that's just going for a walk outside, that's fine. I know I mentioned earlier that ClassPass stresses me out, which it low-key does just because I'm like, I need to use my credits, but also they roll over, so it's fine. ClassPass has been very helpful for me because it's allowed me to realize that if I don't want to go to the gym, sometimes having a class that's already scheduled, like I have to make it to yoga at 6 p.m., knowing that I have to be there or I'll get charged is motivating for me. Like that's the balance I need sometimes, because if I don't have that, I may not have the discipline today or the energy today to push myself to go to the gym. And I need that motivation of like, you have this class scheduled at 6 p.m. and you have to be there or else you're getting charged $17. And who wants to get charged for a class they didn't even have to pay for in the first place? But with working out, you need to understand that your body needs rest for your muscles to repair and grow stronger. So allow your body that rest. When you work out, you're creating microscopic tears in your muscle tissues, okay? Rest allows you to do the same workouts with less efforts, which in turn leads to higher reps or higher weight, and then obviously the appearance of bigger muscles. So rest is really important. And also when it comes to injuries and straining of certain muscles, you need to allow yourself to rest to prevent that. Now, rest doesn't mean, oh, it's my rest day, I eat like shit today, I lay in bed all day. Rest could even look like just going outside for a walk. And I use yoga as a rest day. I mean, you don't want to do one of the crazy like power yogas, but there's definitely yoga that's just breath work or slow movement. And that can be a good option for you if you still want to feel like I'm being consistent, I'm giving myself rest, but also I'm not just throwing my schedule out the window, and this allows me to still feel like I did something today, like I moved my body, and that's always a win. Okay, moving on from health stuff, I want you to also learn to balance your logic versus your intuition. So I touched on this in last week's episode on masculine versus feminine energy, but I just want you guys to trust your gut more. Like, be more spontaneous, live your life, place less emphasis on all of these little changes and little choices that you have to make every day. Of course, logic is needed for your big, huge shifts. Like if you're about to quit your job or you want to move somewhere, of course, get the facts out there, figure out the pros and cons. But for everyday decisions, stress less. There's actually a quote that reads, "The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know." And you guys have probably heard this before. I feel like people say this a lot when you're trying to make a big decision and they're like, I don't know. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And you're like forced to sit there and be like, okay, are they just saying this because they don't want me to make this change, or they want me to be comfortable, or they just don't want me to make the wrong choice and they're like trying to look out for me? Like, what's the vibe here? Like when it comes to jobs or relationships, if you say the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, I can understand where you're coming from, but I just feel like this is a tactic to keep us in our comfort zones. And I don't ever want to feel like I'm trapped somewhere. Viewing it from that perspective is just telling yourself, I'd rather stay comfortable, I'd rather stay complacent than see what's out there, take a risk, trust my gut, and I'm doing that out of fear. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are operating out of fear if you're afraid of the devil you don't know. Like, let me meet him. What's his name? What do I got to do to get through to him? Because I'm trying to fuck around and find out. Like, let me see if I can beat this man or woman. I want to know. And if I do fail, at least I tried. So just think about that moving forward. Think about, do I trust my intuition? Am I presenting more of a logical side or an intuitive side? And just recognize that these are both valuable and balance is key. Another basket that I really need to work on balancing better is social media versus living in the moment. So for me, especially wanting to be online and having this podcast, I really struggle with wanting to literally record everything and thinking that every thought that I have or everything that happens to me, oh, that would make a good video. And it's like, you know what? Some experiences, some ideas, some events are not needed to be broadcasted. And there's a lot of peace in just thinking something or doing something without feeling the need to share it. You know, like sometimes the effort that goes into sharing it actually takes away from the thing itself. Like, for instance, if I wanted to make a new recipe, okay? I look on TikTok, I find it, I have it pulled up, and I go to start doing it. And then I'm like, wait, I should actually record this. This would be a good video. And instead of just making the meal, now I try to set up the camera, and I have to worry about the lighting, and I have to worry about the setup and making sure everything looks clean in the background. And it kind of just takes away from the entire process or the entire outlet of me just getting to cook a fun new recipe. So for me, having an interest in cooking and fitness and all of these things is fine, but I can't always be recording those things. As much as I would love to show my workout routine every day at the gym, I couldn't enjoy the gym if I was so focused on setting up a tripod and making sure everything looks perfect and wasting all this time. Like, I don't have the time to do that. So just take a step back and realize what works for you. And also understand that social media is not real. Obviously, we know this. Like, some of the most toxic relationships look the best online. You can probably think of 3 relationships right now that look perfect online, and they're actually the farthest thing from it. So just take that with a grain of salt. And I mean, not even to mention, y'all have probably heard about the new documentary with Ruby, whatever, the 8-passenger documentary. The mom who was like a vlogger, and it came out that she was really fucking abusive towards her kids. Yeah, that's the perfect example. Like, everyone on YouTube thought she was a perfect mom, or just a relatable one at the very least, and behind closed doors, her kids are literally starving and being tortured. So take social media with a grain of salt. Use social media as a tool, and again, have some balance, because in high dosages, that comparison is going to be detrimental to your health, your well-being, your goals, your overall sense of self, and it's not going to be productive. So balance is key when it comes to social media. And if you need to, put that shit on no notifications, turn on a lock for yourself. Whatever you have to do to get yourself off the apps, do it. So kind of on that note, have balance between chasing your dreams and enjoying where you're at right now. You need to know that sleep is so essential to all baskets, all aspects of your life. And if you don't prioritize sleep and relaxation and rest, as I mentioned when it comes to working out, but also just rest in general, you can't be as productive because you simply won't have the energy to. And I don't know about you, but walking around feeling fatigued and feeling like you need to have 2 cups of coffee to sustain your day is not the life I want to live. Although I really have been enjoying coffee in the evening, and I need to stop because I'm having way too much caffeine lately. But yeah, allowing yourself to do both. Something that's really helped me is putting things on my to-do list for a day that are actually leisure or like a fun little task. Like, for instance, if you wanted to do a face mask, okay, you would put that on your to-do list and you're checking it off. So you still feel productive, but you're actually doing something that's relaxing. And I'm not saying this is the gold standard, because ultimately you should just be able to do the face mask. But if you're kind of phasing out of that overproductive mindset like I am, it gives you the space to do what you want to do, but also it still feels like you're aligned with your mindset and your goals and being consistent and having discipline, because you're still following a set plan. Even if that plan is watch this movie, take a nap, do your nails, like all of those things are not, they're not hard or they're not a job, but they're something that you want to do for yourself. So let's make it a priority and let's get them done. Okay, the last one I want to cover, I feel like I could cover a million more, but I'm cutting myself off, is relationships, okay? If you're in a relationship, you need to learn to balance alone time versus time with your partner, and also how to have boundaries when it comes to that. So I wanted to end with this because taking all of the baskets into consideration, okay? When you get in a relationship, that is the biggest place where you decide to throw all the baskets out the window. You only care about your partner. You care about pleasing them. You care about making sure they ate. You care about making sure they have a good day. And you tend to throw out the health, the wellness, the diet. All of that just goes out the window because you're so focused on putting all of your energy into them. So I just wanted to say, don't give up everything you like or everything that you want to do or need to do to feel balanced, to please another person. There has to be compromise. There has to be consideration. And this has to happen from both parties. So for instance, if right now your schedule is Sundays, you meal prep, you get yourself set up for the next week, you do laundry, whatever it may be, you have a whole Sunday reset, okay? That's your Sunday right now. Then somebody walks into your life and you start to realize that you're spending your Sundays watching football or laying around in bed, and your entire next week is a mess because you did not set out your Sundays to do what you needed to do. So you gave up that boundary to lay around with your partner and do something that they wanted to do, but there was no consideration because now you are set up for failure. This should be a moment where you think, okay, if this is sounding familiar, maybe I need to reevaluate. How am I spending my time? Does my partner value my time? Do they understand what I have to do in a week, in a month? Do they understand what brings me peace, how I relax, how I unwind, what fills my cup, what makes my life easier, okay? Your partner should be making your life easier, not harder. So please think about all of your baskets and just make sure that you're not giving up on your energy for all of those things that you need to feel well-rounded just for one person. Okay, so to end this episode off, once again, find out what your baskets are. Think about all the things that you're trying to do or the daily habits that you have established or you want to establish. Write them down and then come up with a plan for dividing your time to meet all of these needs. Again, don't overcrowd your plate. It's better to focus on 2 things and finish them than 10 things and complete 0 of them because you feel so overwhelmed. Be mindful and check in with yourself to see what's bringing you down or what your body and your mind are craving. And if you're struggling to figure this out, I would really, really recommend a few things for you. And they sound basic, they sound cliche, but I'm telling you, meditating and silence are probably number 1 for figuring it out. Because when you're in silence, your thoughts are going to race. You get mad when your thoughts race, but it actually tells you, my thoughts are racing about this thing. That must be really important, or that must be really stressing me out. So sitting in silence, meditation, key. Also, journaling. Again, when you sit down and you set out to write shit down, the things that are bothering you are going to come out. And you can lead yourself into this. Like, start your sentence out with, I'm really struggling with, and just see what your mind tells you. See what you start writing, because you probably will just figure it out by forcing it out of yourself. Fuck hustle culture. If you are struggling, listen to your body, listen to your mind, feel your feelings. Don't just push through and ignore them. Use this as your guide. Give yourself grace. If you fail or you can't make time for something that you're trying to do, reflect on that, reevaluate, take things off your plate if you need to, rearrange your schedule. Whatever you have to do, use your struggles, use your pain, use your suffering as a compass for where you need to go. If you feel unhappy, there's a good chance that you're placing too much energy in one basket, or you're not allowing yourself to see the positives that are all around you because you're too focused on doing 20,000 tasks in 1 week. So set boundaries for yourself, set boundaries for how you spend your time, and do not sacrifice this. Don't sacrifice this for your job. Don't sacrifice this for another person. Stay true to that. Small changes make the biggest impact, and a collection of small changes or habits results in large change. So don't feel like you have to make the biggest move. Sometimes it's just making a move. Gratitude is the highest vibration that you can operate on. So through all of this, through all the baskets, through all of the deciding where you want to spend your time and what's making you happy and what's bringing you down, just remember to have gratitude through it all. Like I said, look at life in parallels. Enjoy the beauty in the highs and the lows, and understand that you can control what's in your baskets, but you can't control how other people react. You can't control how events play out around you. You can't control tragedies or those unexpected life moments that just happen. You can't control the opportunities that come your way when you make decisions, and so much more. So again, I'll leave you with that quote I started with. Life is a balance between what we can control and what we cannot. Learn to live in between effort and surrender. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. It really meant a lot for me to get you to realize that my life is not perfect by any means, and just because I choose to share my life with you online and I choose to have a very motivational presence, that doesn't mean that I'm not also struggling. So I hope that you have some comfort in knowing that. And if you related to any of my struggles, or you also just need to work on having more balance in your life, and you just needed some suggestions or some motivation for how to get out of that rut of maybe putting all of your energy into one thing or not putting your energy into anything, that was my goal. So I have faith in you. I'm rooting for you. If you guys ever need anything, any more tips on specific things that you're trying to balance in your life, let me know. I am so open. My DMs are open. Anything that you need, I got you. I'm rooting for you. And yeah, you guys got this.